The question most buyers have before committing to a private property in 2026 is simple: new launch or resale. One offers a 3 to 4 years waiting time, while the other ensures that you can have your home by Christmas. But is speed a good enough reason to spend 1.5 million? Or is the Newness Premium just a premium for renovation peace of mind? Today we are looking at the pros and cons behind both options to see which one actually fits your lifestyle and your exit strategy. And before we start, let's make it clear, there is no single best option in the Singapore property market. The perfect property exists only for you because everyone's life circumstances are unique. An investor happily staying in his family home looking for a hands-off approach with progressive payments will have a completely different set of priorities for a family of 5 that needs move-in certainty today. One is buying for leverage and the other is buying for utility. And to understand the pros and cons of both, we need to understand how a new launch and a resale process works first. Starting with new launches, let's use primary residences as an example since it's coming up. New launches are the equivalent of BTOs, just that it's conducted by developers via property agents rather than handled by the government, hence private properties. It usually starts with indicative prices, floor plan releases, and then a preview date. The preview allows you to view the show flat and decide which unit you are likely to go for or whether you are even going to be participating in the ballot. And this preview period usually runs for approximately 2 weeks starting on a Friday or a Saturday and has a participation cutoff 10 days later. And that usually concludes with a booking session 14 days from the start of the preview. The actual prices and additional discounts would usually be released on the booking day itself, with prices immediately increasing the day after. The booking of the unit then requires you to make a 5% payment on the spot during booking day and the remaining 15% and stamp duty 7 to 8 weeks later. And note that at this point we have only paid 20% down payment here, and this will be relevant info later. So using Pioneery's timeline as an example, for a 3-bedroom unit at $2 million, it will look something like this. Start of the preview 14th of March, Saturday. Participation cutoff date on 24th of March, Tuesday, and booking date will be on 28th of March, Saturday. You will have to pay 5% or $100,000 cash on 28th of March to receive the option to purchase or OTP for your unit. The developer will then send the sales and purchase document to your lawyers within 2 weeks by 11th of April. And you will need to exercise on the document within 3 weeks from the day that they receive it, and in this case, latest by 2nd of May. 2 weeks within exercising, stamp duties are payable by 16th of May, and in this case, $69,600. This can be paid in CPF or cash. And finally, the completion of sale, 300,000 CPF or cash in this case, would be done within 8 weeks from the booking date, which is 23rd of May. Now what happens after this whole process? Let's introduce the progressive payment chart. We will be using a 75% loan for this example, and it may look complicated at first, but let's go through each step slowly. What's happening here is that the developers will only be able to request for payment after certain stages of their work is done. So imagine that you're building a house today. You will need to first build the foundation and then the framework of the building, the walls, the ceiling, the windows, and all that. And this is a process that has been established in Singapore. The timeline we went through earlier is summarized in the SMP period on this chart, which accounts for 20% of the property price. 6 to 9 months later, depending on the developer's process, they would complete the foundation works and will then proceed to call for 10% of the property price. But because we have a maximum of 75% loan to value, it means that we will have to down pay a minimum of 25%. And remember that as of now, we have only paid 20%. This is where the remaining 5% kicks in, and it will be payable via CPF or cash, and in this case, another $100,000. The remaining 5% of this stage will be dispersed by your bank in the form of a loan, and this is where your mortgage starts, and the loan payable is 5% of the property price, or a mortgage of $345. 6 to 9 months later, the developer would have finished the framework of the building and call for another 10% of the property price. This time round, you don't have to pay anything. The bank disperses the next 10% of your loan, increasing it from a 5% to a 15% of the property price. Hence, your mortgage increases to $1,035. And from here on out, after each milestone is completed, that would increase your loan amount bit by bit all the way till TOP when you collect your keys, which is why we call this entire thing progressive payment. The thing to take note here is at TOP, when you collect your keys, number one, your mortgage jumps quite a bit because of the 25% loan disbursement. And number two, only 60 out of the 75% is dispersed at this stage. For the developer to attain the last milestone, CSC, which is the disbursement of the remaining 15% loan, they would have to clear all the defects in the development and any outstandings deemed necessary by the government. This process usually takes up to a year, meaning that your first year holding the new property is cheaper than the usual 75% loan. If you are taking less than a 75% loan, you will have to pay the disbursement amount as is called by the developer. For an example, if it's a 70% loan instead, you will have to fork out the full 10% during the completion of the foundation stage. And now at this point, you might be wondering, is this the same as HDB where I have to hold on to the unit for the seller stamp duty or SSD period before selling? The answer is no. The SSD countdown starts from the point of exercising on the property years ago. Meaning as of now, if you exercised 4 years ago and collected your keys today, you will be able to sell immediately upon TOP without incurring any SSD. To understand more about SSD or cooling measures, you can refer to this video over here. And now that you know how new launches work, here's the list of pros and cons. The pros are, you get first picks of the development. At launch day, with a good queue number, you can get the best view, best floor, best layout, or even the most economical unit. You will have all of the development to choose from, unlike the resale market where you're only buying the units that are available on the market. Next, we have lower initial outlay. For people who may not have the full 25% ready, new launches require you to down pay 20% first and the remaining 6 to 9 months later. Meaning that if you need extra time to come up with the extra 5%, you can down pay 20% first to secure the property and then pay the remaining 5% when it's ready. And take note that this is only for launches that are on launch day or close to it. If you're buying something that is post-launch, a year after its original launch, foundation would likely have already completed and payment for this stage would have been called for, and you will need to pay for the 25% upfront. And the next pro is that you're buying into a brand new product with cheaper mortgage because you are not going to be paying for the full mortgage from day one. Under the progressive payment scheme, your installments only grow as the building reaches construction milestones. It is a lower initial burden that allows you to manage your liquidity elsewhere, and depending on how much reno you prefer, you might not need to do renovations at all. Because you're buying directly from the developer, it will come partially renovated, like the kitchens and toilets and probably the bedrooms will be renovated. And next, you're taking on a lesser price risk because everybody likely bought in at similar buying prices. No one most of the time would sell even lower than that. And that means that the prices only have one way to go, and that is up. New launches usually enjoys a price bump upon TOP because you are buying into tomorrow's development at today's prices. And next, we have the Newness Premium, and to some people they may say,
but it's just a property ma, nothing special.
Renovate old property also the same. But no, the truth is, very few people get the opportunity to live in a brand new development in their lifetimes. Whether it's a BTO or a private property, brand new means directly from developers, whether it's the structure of the house or the latest technologies installed in the condo facilities or even the more efficient floor plan. Living in brand new TOP development is an experience highly sought after from people, hence the price premium. And this is consistent with everything else like cars, phones, or even brand new in-box items. And next, we have the ability to enter the property market even in a high interest environment. Because the loan is dispersed progressively, even in a high interest environment, you won't be paying too much interest compared to a resale unit which requires the full mortgage at high interest. Some people adopt this strategy particularly in 2023 and 2024 period. And now we move on to the cons of new launches, starting with the rental as extra expenses. If you are buying for own stay and have no other accommodation to rely on, that means that you're spending on rental somewhere, which might not make sense for certain cases because you will be incurring double costs for rental and progressive payment mortgage at the same time. And also, rental is an immediate loss on financials because all of that rental goes to the landlord and none of it helps build your equity. And next, if you're buying for for investment, that means that you can't collect rental during this period and your money is likely sitting still. And the investment is dependent on how the project performs upon TOP to see your actualized returns. Because some people may prefer to see actual brick and mortar and instant rentability. And next, if you're someone that needs renovating, the timeline to move in can be quite fluid because you can't start renovations until your defect rectifications are completed. If the developer team is too busy, rectifications can take up to a month and then your renovation timelines take a hit as well. This is not gonna delay for 3-4 months, right? But the fluidity of this situation makes your timeline planning a little harder. And next, the sizes are likely smaller than the home you grew up in. So if you're looking at spaces based on ID concepts in show flats, make sure you actually know the size of the house or rooms that you're buying into. And next, we have the TOP saturation. If you're buying into an investment property area and are looking to rent or sell, you will be competing with many other units. So whichever your plan is upon TOP, it may take a while to execute. And now moving on to private resale, let's talk about how resale properties work. In the resale market, it's more of a what you see you get and buying the property as is. Meaning that you can only buy from the open market if someone's selling the particular unit you're looking for. And this process starts with your house hunt and finding the desired property you want, and after that you negotiate the price, and once that's settled, you will begin the purchase process. And unlike new launches, resale properties require a 1% of property price in the form of option fee in cash upfront for the option to purchase or OTP. You will then have 2 weeks to decide whether to go through with that purchase, and if you go through with it, you pay 4% to the seller's lawyer as an exercise fee and then pay your stamp duty within 2 weeks of that. The deal will usually be completed within 10 weeks from the exercise date. And now using Treasure at Tampines 2 million 3-bedroom as an example, if you have decided on a resale unit there on the 13th of March, this is how the timeline would look like. 13th of March is when you pay the 1% option fee of $20,000 in cash, and by 27th of March is when you pay the remaining 4% exercise fee of $80,000 in cash. You will then have to pay the stamp duties by 10th of April, 2 weeks later, and in this case, $69,600. The purchase will then be completed on 5th of June where you pay the final 20%, which is $400,000 in this case. And once you make payment on 5th June, that is also the date that you collect the keys to your unit and can immediately start renovating the day after. And now that you know how resale properties work, here's the list of pros and cons. The pros are, you will be negotiating with an individual seller, so depending on their circumstances, you may be able to get better deal compared to a non-negotiating developer. And next, if it's an older condo, then you will be able to likely get bigger spaces to work with, or even in some cases a unit without a balcony if you find it a wasted space. And for this point also, you will be able to see the property in flesh, whether it is the views or the airflows or how furnitures fit in. You won't have to try to imagine how it will be because it is a real life experience of the home before you officially buy it. And next, if you're buying for own stay, you will get to enjoy the space immediately or at least have a clearer timeline on the renovation process. You can pass your keys to your ID or contractors immediately for them to start work, assuming you've got the relevant approvals prior to completion. And next, if you're buying for investment, you will get to enjoy immediate rental gains if it comes with tenancy already, or you can immediately start looking for a tenant to occupy the property. This is especially useful if you're buying a renovated house that doesn't require any major renovation works. And next, it's no secret that resale properties are friendlier on budget. In some locations, a 3-bedroom resale condo can only afford you a 2-bedroom new launch unit. So if you fancy more space or that extra bedroom and your budget cap, then go for the resale condo. And now moving on to the cons of resale property, starting with limited selection. Your selection is only based on what's available on the market. If you want a specific facing or floor level and none is on sale, you will likely have to wait until one appears. And next, there is a certain risk that you're taking, and I will need to expand on this point a little. Today, if you're buying into a development as a resale buyer, your other neighbors could potentially be a day one buyer, which also means that they bought in at a way lower price than you. If times are bad or the property doesn't perform as you think it would, you could be buying in at an all-time high, risking a potential longer than expected hold to exit at your desired price. But as always, as long as the macroeconomics of Singapore and the fundamentals of property is there, you can generally expect an uptrend for the property prices. It's just a matter of how long you will need to hold on to it. And next, you require the full 25% upfront and will need to start paying mortgage immediately. So in a sense, you will be time gated based on your down payment readiness. No 25% down payment, no entry into the market. And next, for older resale condos, there may also be cases of inefficient spaces or irregular layouts. And because most of the resales out there are unharmonized, you will be paying for aircon ledges as well comparatively to the new launches now which are harmonized. And the next con of resale property is that you will likely have to handle some form of renovations work because this unit has been lived in for years. And this may incur additional costs that you didn't account for. And to give you an example of why a resale property may cost the same as a new launch unit, let's take two examples again. Pinery Residences 3-bedroom at $2 million and Eden at Tampines 3-bedroom at $1.5 million. At first glance, you may think that buying Eden at Tampines is $500,000 cheaper, but let's put the cost side by side over here. 25% down payment for Pinery is $500,000 plus $69,600 buyer's stamp duty, which totals up to $569,600. 25% down payment for Eden is $375,000 plus $44,600 buyer's stamp duty, which totals up to $419,600. But the Eden is a 23-year-old development, so you will likely have to overhaul the entire house, which may cost you $150,000, which brings your grand total to $569,600, which is the same as the 25% down payment of Pinery Residences. And even if you say that the mortgage is cheaper for Eden in the long run, the mortgage differences for both properties is $1,294 a month, $15,528 a year, or $77,640 for 5 years. And this is not including the potential higher maintenance fee for older condos as well. And so now the question is, would you rather pay $1,294 more a month to stay in a brand new development? And also, which property do you think will earn more capital gains in the longer run? That is why resale properties, even though it may look cheaper at first glance, may not be ideal. You will have to include your renovation math first before deciding whether it's worth it to jump into the cheaper resale property. So knowing both products now, which one is more suitable for you? This depends on which profile you are, and we're going to list 4 examples here, starting with profile number 1, the leverage or liquidity investor. You are currently staying with your family or have a housing solution that doesn't cost you and are looking to start a property investment portfolio. You will likely be more suitable for a new launch. Why? Because you're not just buying a house, you're buying a financial lever. By using the progressive payment scheme, your monthly burn rate starts low, like for an example $1,500, and only scales up as the building grows. You are essentially outsourcing your mortgage interest to the developer's construction timeline, while your capital acquisition builds towards TOP. And because housing isn't a concern for you, you can rent out the property indefinitely to cover the holding costs until you get your desired price. You can refer to this video to count rental holding costs and yields. And so the verdict is, if you don't need a roof over your head, buy the future upside with today's liquidity to start your investment with a lower downside risk on future capital appreciation. Profile number 2, the rental family. You are currently renting a 3-bedroom for your family at $5,500 a month while waiting for the right time to buy. In this case, you will be more suitable for resale properties. In 2026, timing the market is a losing game when you have a $5,500 monthly expense late. Every 12 months you wait to time the market or even buy a new launch to TOP, you have handed $66,000 in pure expense to a landlord. And that's $66,000 of equity you didn't build. And the verdict for this is you need immediate utility. Buy a resale unit where your mortgage goes towards your own principal and not someone else's passive income. And profile number 3, the asset leapfrog couple. You two already own one private property but want to upgrade without selling your safety net immediately. And in this case, you will be likely more suitable for a strategic new launch. And this is all about risk management. You can free up one name from the existing property. You keep your current resale to stay while using the freed name to enter the new launch as the investment property. You will essentially be straddling between both worlds. However, However, this would require a cash reserve check on your end because you will be paying both the mortgage and the progressive payments. If both your TDSR and cash reserves can handle this, then you are building a double engine property portfolio. And next, we have the profile that is more common in the market today, the resale upgrader. You currently own a 10-year-old resale condo or perhaps a mature HDB that has hit a price plateau. You need more space but refuse to pay that 20% newness premium for a construction weight, and you have no alternate housing solution and will incur additional rental expense. In this case, you may be more suitable for a high volume resale development or a mega development like Treasure at Tampines, because essentially what you're doing here is you're executing a volatility swap. You sell your current asset which may have a lower price movement due to low transaction volume or not as high of a demand as you thought it would be, and move that equity into a better performing asset and upgrade your space at the same time. And so if you're going for this route, select your next property based on the pillars we spoke of in this video and ensure that there is a viable exit strategy in place for you to move on again if you're required to. At the end of the day, you avoid the new launch wait time without having to pay the monthly rentals for waiting, and you are essentially buying a resale development that has a track record that may perform better than your existing asset. And so as you can see, there is no one size fits all in property, and I must emphasize that your property should enhance your lifestyle and not degrade it. You shouldn't be eating grass just because you bought a property. Your lifestyle should remain the same while your equity grows. So don't go compromising or squeezing every dollar for the property and hope for that big gains in 5 years to enjoy life again. Always buy within your own limits. And at the end of the day, whether you choose to buy a new launch or a resale, it has to pass your own financial stress test first, whether it's sustenance for living expenses for 12 to 24 months or whether you can handle the recurring costs. Don't make a 1.5 million decision based on a feeling or a nice show flat. If you want a data-backed audit of your current portfolio or to plan your next move, DM me audit at 9697 1000. Let's look at the numbers before you sign that OTP. And as always, if you like content like this, subscribe to the channel. I'm ASAP and I will see you in the next video.